Well, we ended up getting a man bit by an alligator, then shot by cops all in the same day before we got GTA 6. That's what we're going to talk about today as I fill you in on a bizarre story that probably could only come out of Florida. Gators are in waters all throughout the South, but Florida is special. You have a lot of transplants, retirees, people on vacation, and overall the warmer weather and the environment make for an interesting dynamic when it comes to people, places, things, animals, and even reptiles. And this one kind of covers it all. Now, even though this is a bizarre chain of events and a pretty wild story, there is a point to this as well. I really want to kind of focus in on something that I think maybe this case represents just as good or maybe better than any of them, and why we always focus on the wrong thing. We focus on guns, but not one of the most important issues that we actually have. So hopefully you guys will enjoy this story, and of course I want to hear your opinion down below. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Now, Timothy Schultz is the guy in this situation that was swimming with gators, but he actually started early in the morning. It was like 5:56 a.m. when he showed up at a racetrack, and he was acting very erratically according to some reports, and people said that he was trying to make a call to his son. Well, cops showed up very shortly after that. I saw one report that said 3 minutes later, and Schultz was nowhere to be found. But then at 7:53 a.m., by the way, this all happened on Memorial Day, police got another call about a guy swimming in a lake full of alligators. Now, what's interesting here is that there was actually witnesses around this lake, and somebody offered him a life preserver. He turned it down. Another person apparently ran away from the lake after Schultz started growling at him. Now, when he got out of the lake, people noticed that he had a significant bite on his arm, but he kept up with the rampage, actually stealing a pair of garden shears, then trying to break into a vehicle by throwing a brick through the window. That's when cops actually reported that they saw him doing that, and that's when they confronted him and tased him twice, and yet he still started coming at them with these garden shears. And at one point, he tried to get into the police vehicle, presumably to steal one of their guns, and that's when they had to actually put him down, if you will. Now look, a Breaking Bad blue-fueled swim across the alligator-infested lake isn't for everyone, and it's not something you're going to come across every single day, but it does highlight the importance, not only for law enforcement, but for regular citizens as well, that expecting the unexpected is a part of what we do as gun owners and people that just want to be prepared for anything. And so very fittingly, RMA is the sponsor of today's video. They just released their XRT Plates, which help bridge the gap between level 3 and level 4 protection. Normally, to get level 4 protection, you would have to spend a lot of money and you'd be subject to a lot more weight, but these guys have been able to bridge that gap by offering a product that can stop M855A1, M80A1, and even 762x54R. And it comes in at 5.3 pounds. That is freaking impressive. And it's actually only 0.75 inches thick, which still leaves enough room where you can put level 3A soft pads or even trauma kits inside of your vest. So it kind of does a little bit of everything while offering you some of the highest protection you can get. By the way, they're not introducing these plates at $4.99 or $3.99 or $2.99. They're introducing them at $1.99. That is an incredible value. So no matter if you're in law enforcement facing these Breaking Bad blue-fueled alligator-infested swimmers that come to attack you with garden shears, or just a regular citizen, make sure you check out the XRT Plates from RMA. Now, he did succumb to those wounds. 3 shots, I think, is what the report is. And cops are speculating that he was under the influence of a certain Breaking Bad type of substance. People were shocked, you know? I mean, this guy was swimming in a lake full of alligators, and that's nothing new, right, in Florida. I mean, they're the only place that has not only a ton of alligators, but also American crocodiles, right? Florida is very unique in its habitat and it's the nature there and the invasive species that are there, including the native species as well. It's It's very unique in that way. And while most of the time, myself growing up in the South and being around gators all the time when I'm fishing, they've never bothered me, but they're not necessarily something I would want to be swimming with either. Kind of like anywhere down here, you dip your toes in the water, any type of water that's not a pool, the chances of coming across an alligator are actually pretty high, but most of the time they just kind of stay away from you. But I don't know, maybe this guy was trying to wrestle with them. Who knows? If he's under the influence of that, it's hard to say. Now, I want to say something here really quick. Before I make the points I'm about to, just know that this guy is the definition of FAFO. I think police officers actually gave him more than what they probably should have. They gave him way more opportunities to just stop. This is a repeat offender over and over and over and over. And I don't know if anything could have helped him, but what I do know is that it is absolutely insane that somebody can swim across a lake, get bitten by an alligator, grab garden shears, attack cops, and have the energy to do all that. Most people get bit by an alligator, you know, if you're not out of your mind and on the Breaking Bad blue, then you would like be distraught, right? You'd be like, okay, all right, I'm done. You know, God's trying to send me a message here. I'm going to stop. But there is a difference between non-violent offenses like this and obviously violent offenses. In no way am I justifying that we should allow these types of substances and people to be on them. These substances are harmful. And while a lot are non-violent type of situations, this is not one of them. We're just using this as a catalyst to point to a much larger issue, but make no mistake about it, this guy Schultz got exactly what he deserved and what he's been asking for. As a matter of fact, it can't be proven now because, well, the guy is...
He's dead. Deader than 4 o'clock.
But maybe he wanted to do this on purpose. Who knows? By the way, Grady Judd, sheriff down in Florida, is always handling some kind of crazy story, it seems, and I love his approach. Intentionally, unintentionally, kind of funny as well, the way he tells these stories. Now, this guy had a history of this type of behavior. According to one report I saw, he had a pretty long rap sheet, and the Breaking Bad substance that he was taking, I guess, was an issue for a really long time. And we've seen other cases where the same exact thing, right? You have repeat offenders. I mean, this guy was just arrested in April. He was let out May 20th. May 26th, he ended up doing this again. And we've seen it before where other people, right? They have a long rap sheet and then they go off, they do something stupid, they might take the life of another person, and we're all wondering, why are we talking about gun control? Why aren't we talking about actual solutions, especially things like mental health services? Now, there's a variety of different states, like Texas, Florida is one. They're trying to reduce recidivism by actually diverting a good amount of funds. I know Texas has done this to programs that will basically encourage you and try to help you if you're dealing with an issue like this. As opposed to some cities in the United States, your Philadelphia's, San Francisco's, Portland's, and others that are doing harm reduction sites, essentially promoting the use of these substances and creating zombie cities, essentially. You guys have all seen these videos, I'm sure. So there's a balance there between making people accountable for what they're doing, but also understanding that when it comes to non-violent substance type of issues, there might be a better way as opposed to just throwing them in jail. As a matter of fact, there's statistics on this. According to the Bureau of Justice and Statistics, 76% of people on a state level that offended were found to have reoffended within 5 years, and 47% on a federal level after 8 years. But when you look up treatment programs, it's a little misleading, because one of them I found, it shows like, you know, participants that went through a treatment program had a recidivism rate of 30%, while those that were non-participants had a rate of 25%, which is lower. So you would think, well, these programs aren't really working. The problem with that is most of the time people that are put into these programs are actually forced into them because they've had a longer criminal history. So they're more likely to reoffend anyways. Some studies have shown that These programs can lead to like a 16 to 20% reduction rate, which is actually quite significant if this was adopted on a higher scale. But again, I'm not talking about not holding people accountable. You have to do that because there's consequences for actions, right? There always will be, but also not just throwing people in jail and just saying, okay, yeah, hopefully you get better and hopefully you never want to come back, because that comes with other issues as well, right? Especially when you're talking about higher charges that lead to things like having gun rights stripped and voting rights and being able to secure a job and employment. All of these things are then stacked against him. So I'm not trying to justify what this guy is doing, but what I'm saying is maybe, and again, maybe he was in a program, maybe he was one of those ones that they forced to go through a program and he just didn't get it. This is going to happen, right? There's going to be people that just simply don't get it. They're going to keep doing what they want to do. But my belief is, as opposed to some of these harm reduction sites and stuff that a lot of liberal cities are embracing, which is an absolute nightmare, hold people accountable, but give them a chance to restore themselves by work programs or treatment programs. If we're going to focus on mental health, we can't just talk about it after an unfortunate mass tragedy type of event. We need to nip it in the bud before the next one. You can't stop all of this stuff. But again, maybe we can help and actually focus on that. It also seems like it would actually save a ton of money as opposed to jailing people and spending tens of thousands of dollars every year to keep them there. Why not take a little bit, or actually a lot less money, to hopefully help treat them, get them back on the right path, and make sure that we don't take opportunities away from them, making it harder and honestly making it more enticing to go right back into the system. Again, this is no excuse. This guy did a dumb thing, FAFO, and that sucks. But maybe there's a better option for others out there. That's my opinion. I'd love to hear yours. Let me know what you think down below. If you like what I do, consider subscribing. See you in the next one. And as always, hold 'em down.